I never thought I'd see David again. It's been 9 years since he walked out, leaving me pregnant and alone. But now here he is, sitting on our old couch, looking at me with eyes full of regret. Emily, our daughter, is curled up on his lap, her face beaming with joy. She has always wanted to know her father, and now he's here, right in front of us. "Hi, Sarah," David says, his voice soft and unsure. "It's been a long time." I nod, not trusting myself to speak. My mind is a whirlwind of emotions, anger, hurt, and a flicker of hope. I glance at Emily, who's looking at David like he's some kind of hero. For her sake, I need to keep it together. "Mom, isn't it great? Dad's home." Emily's voice is filled with excitement. I force a smile. "Yes, sweetie, it's unexpected." David's face falls a little at my words. He looks down at Emily, brushing a stray curl from her face. "I've missed so much, Emily. I'm sorry I wasn't there." "Why did you go away, Daddy?" Emily asks, her innocent blue eyes wide with curiosity. David takes a deep breath. "I made some mistakes, honey. I let people tell me things that weren't true. But I'm here now, and I want to make things right." I can feel the tears welling up in my eyes, but I blink them away. I need to be strong. "David, can we talk?" I ask, my voice steadier than I feel. He nods, carefully setting Emily down. "Of course." We step outside onto the porch, the evening air cool and soothing. For a moment, we stand in silence, the weight of the past hanging between us. "Why now?" I ask, my voice barely a whisper. "Why come back after all these years?" David runs a hand through his hair, looking tired and worn. "I was wrong, Sarah. My mother, she lied to me about you. She made me believe you cheated on me. I should have trusted you, but I didn't. I spent years searching for you, trying to find a way to make amends." His words hit me like a punch to the gut. All those years of pain and loneliness, all because of a lie. "You have no idea what it's been like," I say, my voice trembling. "Raising Emily on my own, dealing with the hurt and betrayal." "I know," David says, his eyes full of sorrow. "And I'm so sorry. I want to make it up to you both. Please, give me a chance." I look at him, my heart aching. Part of me wants to push him away, to protect myself from more pain. But another part, the part that remembers the good times, wants to believe him. For Emily's sake, I need to try. "Okay," I say finally, "but it's not going to be easy. You'll have to prove that you've changed." David nods, relief flooding his face. "I will, Sarah. I promise." We head back inside, where Emily is waiting, her eyes bright with hope. As I watch her run into David's arms, I realize that maybe, just maybe, we can find a way to be a family again. The road ahead will be tough, but for Emily, I'm willing to try. The days after David's return were a blur. He seemed determined to make up for lost time, spending every moment he could with Emily. He took her to the park, helped her with her homework, and even read her bedtime stories. I watched from a distance, still wary but feeling a small spark of hope. One afternoon, while Emily was at school, David and I sat on the porch, sipping lemonade. The sun was warm, and the air was filled with the sweet scent of blooming flowers. It was the kind of day that made you think of happier times. "Do you remember our first date?" David asked, breaking the silence. I nodded, a small smile tugging at my lips. "Yeah, you took me to that old diner on Maple Street. You insisted on ordering the biggest burger on the menu, and then you spilled ketchup all over your shirt." David laughed, a genuine, heartfelt sound that I hadn't heard in years. "I was so nervous. I wanted everything to be perfect." "It was perfect," I said softly, despite the ketchup. We both fell silent, lost in our memories. It was strange, revisiting those moments after all that had happened. But it also felt nice, like finding an old photograph that made you smile. "Sarah," David began, his voice serious, "I know it's going to take time for you to trust me again. But I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. I looked at him, searching his eyes for the truth. It's hard, David. You left us when we needed you the most. Emily and I. We had to build a life without you. David's face tightened with regret. I know, and I hate myself for it. But I want to be here for you now. For both of you. I want to make things right. I sighed, the weight of the past pressing down on me. We've been through a lot, David. Emily has been through a lot. She deserves to have a father in her life, but I need to know that you're really here to stay. David reached out, taking my hand in his. His touch was warm and reassuring. I am, Sarah. I'm here to stay. I'll do whatever it takes to prove that to you. His words, simple and sincere, stirred something deep inside me. Maybe, just maybe, we could find a way to heal. Maybe we could start again. As the days passed, David continued to make an effort. He showed up for Emily in ways I hadn't expected. He attended her school events, took her to Little League games, and even helped her build a treehouse in the backyard. I could see the change in him, and it gave me hope. One evening, after Emily had gone to bed, David and I sat on the porch again. The stars were bright in the sky, and the night was filled with the sound of crickets. Do you ever think about the future? I asked, breaking the comfortable silence. David nodded. Every day. I think about what it would be like to be a real family again. To wake up every morning knowing I have you and Emily by my side. His words warmed my heart. I think about that too, I admitted. It's scary, but it's also nice. David smiled, squeezing my hand. We can have that future, Sarah, one step at a time. As I looked into his eyes, filled with hope and determination, I realized that maybe, just maybe we could. The road ahead would be difficult, but with David by my side, I felt ready to face whatever challenges came our way. For Emily, for us, it was worth the effort. We were worth the effort. With David back in our lives, everything started to change, especially for Emily. She had always been a tough, independent girl, forced to grow up too fast without a father. But now, with David around, I saw a softer side of her emerging. It was like she was discovering a new world, one where she could finally feel complete. David took her to the park nearly every day after school. He taught her how to throw a baseball, cheered her on as she climbed the jungle gym, and patiently listened to her endless stories about school and friends. Emily soaked up every moment, her eyes shining with happiness I hadn't seen in years. One Saturday morning, Emily bounded into the kitchen, her face lit up with excitement. Mom, Dad's taking me to the zoo today. Can we pack a picnic? I looked over at David, who was leaning against the counter, smiling at her enthusiasm. Of course, sweetie. I'll pack your favorite sandwiches. Emily clapped her hands. Yay! This is going to be the best day ever. As I packed the picnic basket, David came over and gave me a quick kiss on the cheek. Thank you, Sarah. This means a lot to her. I nodded, feeling a warmth in my chest. She's been so happy since you came back. It's like she's a different child. David's smile faded a bit. I'm just trying to make up for lost time. She deserves the world. We finished packing and headed to the zoo. Emily ran from exhibit to exhibit, dragging David along with her. They laughed and pointed at the animals, and for the first time in a long while, I felt like we were a real family. At lunchtime, we found a shady spot under a big oak tree and spread out our picnic blanket. Emily chatted away about the animals she had seen, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Did you see the elephants, Daddy? They were so big, she exclaimed, taking a bite of her sandwich. David grinned. I did, and the baby elephant was adorable. Maybe one day we can come back and see it again. Emily's face lit up even more. Really, I'd love that. I'd watch them, feeling a mix of joy and hope. This was what I had always wanted for Emily, a father who was present and loving. And now, she finally had it. As the days turned into weeks, David continued to show up for Emily in ways I hadn't expected. He took her to school events helped her with her homework, and even coached her little league team. Emily flourished under his attention, her confidence growing with each passing day. One evening, after Emily had gone to bed, David and I sat on the porch, enjoying the quiet of the night. "She's changed so much," I said, breaking the silence. "She's happier, more confident." David nodded, a look of pride on his face. "She's an amazing kid, Sarah. You've done a great job raising her." I felt a lump in my throat. I did the best I could. But having you here, it makes a difference. David reached over and took my hand. "I'm not going anywhere, Sarah. I want to be here for both of you. For the long haul." His words, simple yet filled with promise, gave me hope. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but with David by my side, I felt ready to face whatever challenges came our way. For Emily's sake, and for ours, it was worth the effort. We were worth the effort. As I looked out at the stars, I realized that Emily's new world was also a new world for me. One filled with hope, love, and the promise of a better future. And for the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. One evening, after Emily had gone to bed, David and I found ourselves sitting on the porch again. The night was cool, and the sky was a blanket of stars. The crickets were chirping, filling the silence between us. It was a peaceful setting, but my mind was anything but calm. David broke the silence first. "Sarah, there's something we need to talk about." I looked at him, my heart tightening. "What is it?" He took a deep breath. "My mother, Margaret. She's been calling me, asking to see Emily." The name alone sent a shiver down my spine. Margaret had been the cause of so much pain, manipulating David and turning our lives upside down. I clenched my hands into fists, trying to keep my voice steady. "And what did you tell her?" "I told her I'd think about it," David said softly. "I know how you feel about her, Sarah, but she's still Emily's grandmother." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "David, she's the reason you left us. She's the reason Emily grew up without a father. How can you even consider letting her back into our lives?" David looked down, shame in his eyes. "I know she hurt us, and I'm not excusing what she did. But people can change. Maybe she's changed." I shook my head, feeling the anger rise. "You don't understand, David. You weren't the one who had to pick up the pieces. You didn't have to explain to Emily why her daddy wasn't around. Margaret destroyed our family once. I won't let her do it again." David reached out, taking my hand in his. "I'm sorry, Sarah. I didn't mean to upset you. I just thought, maybe it's worth a try, for Emily's sake." I pulled my hand away, the pain and anger too raw. "Emily doesn't need Margaret in her life. She needs us, David. She needs a stable, loving family. That's all she's ever needed." David nodded, his eyes filled with regret. "You're right. I'm sorry. I won't push it. I just wanted to bring it up." I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself. "We need to focus on what's best for Emily. That's all that matters." David looked at me, his expression softening. "I understand. And I promise, I'm here for both of you. I won't let anything come between us again." We sat in silence for a while, the tension slowly easing. It wasn't easy to confront the past, to face the people who had hurt us. But I knew that if we were going to move forward, we had to be honest with each other. "Thank you, David," I said quietly, "for understanding." He gave me a small smile. "I'm just glad you're giving me a chance. I won't let you down." As we sat there, side by side, I felt a glimmer of hope. We had a long way to go, but at least we were facing the future together. And for Emily's sake, that made all the difference. The days turned into weeks, and David continued to make an effort. He showed up for Emily in ways I hadn't expected. He attended her school events, took her to Little League games, and even started fixing up the old house. I watched, still guarded but slowly thawing. One Saturday morning, David and I were in the backyard. He was working on the treehouse he had promised Emily, and I was tending to the garden. It felt strangely domestic, like we were a real family again. David wiped the sweat from his forehead and glanced over at me. "Do you need any help with those weeds?" I looked up, surprised by the offer. "Sure, if you don't mind getting your hands dirty." He laughed, walking over to join me. "I think I can handle it." As we worked side by side, I couldn't help but feel a sense of déjà vu. It reminded me of the early days of our relationship, before everything went wrong. We worked in comfortable silence for a while, the rhythmic pull of the weeds and the scent of the earth grounding us. "I've missed this," David said softly, breaking the silence. I glanced at him, my curiosity piqued. "Missed what?" "Doing things together," he replied, his eyes meeting mine. "Being a family." I felt a lump form in my throat. "It hasn't been easy, David. But Emily, she deserves this. She deserves a father who's present." David nodded, his expression serious. "I know, and I'm trying my best. I want to be here for both of you. For the long haul." I took a deep breath, letting his words sink in. "I want to believe you, David. I really do. But it's going to take time." He reached out, taking my hand in his. "I understand, Sarah. And I'm willing to do whatever it takes to prove that I'm here to stay." We continued working in the garden, the silence between us now filled with a sense of understanding. It was a small step, but it felt like progress. Later that day, we all sat down for dinner. Emily was chattering excitedly about her day at school, her eyes shining with happiness. And then Miss Thompson said I did the best job on my science project. Emily exclaimed, her face beaming with pride. David grinned. "That's amazing, Emily. I'm so proud of you." Emily's smile widened, and she looked at me. "Mom, can Dad come to the science fair next week?" I glanced at David, who was looking at me with hopeful eyes. "Of course, sweetie. I'm sure your dad would love to go." David's face lit up. "Absolutely. I wouldn't miss it for the world." Emily bounced in her seat, clearly thrilled. "This is the best. We can all go together." As we finished dinner, I couldn't help but feel a sense of hope. David was making an effort, and Emily was happier than I had seen her in years. Maybe, just maybe, we were on the right path. That night, after Emily had gone to bed, David and I sat on the porch, the cool breeze brushing against our skin. "I'm glad you're giving me a chance, Sarah," David said, his voice sincere. "I know I have a lot to make up for, but I'm committed to this. To us." I looked at him, my heart softening. "I'm glad too, David. It's been a long road, but we're getting there, one step at a time." He nodded, a smile tugging at his lips. One step at a time. As we sat there, the night sky above us, I felt a sense of peace. We were building bridges, repairing what had been broken. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. For Emily, for us, it was worth every effort. We were worth every effort. Life was finally starting to feel normal again. Emily was thriving with David back in her life, and our little family was slowly rebuilding. But there was one shadow that still loomed large. Margaret, David's mother. The woman who had torn our family apart. One afternoon, as I was folding laundry in the living room, the phone rang. I glanced at the caller ID and felt a chill run down my spine. It was Margaret. I took a deep breath and answered. "Hello." "Sarah, it's Margaret," she said, her voice as cold as ever. "I want to see my granddaughter." My heart tightened. "Margaret, after everything you've done, you think you can just waltz back into our lives?" "She's my flesh and blood," Margaret snapped. "I have a right to see her." "You lost that right when you destroyed our family," I replied, my voice shaking with anger. "Emily doesn't need you in her life." "David thinks otherwise," she said, her tone smug. "He told me he'd think about it." I hung up, my hands trembling. David walked in just then, seeing the look on my face. "Sarah, what's wrong?" he asked, concern etching his features. "Your mother called," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. She wants to see Emily. David sighed, running a hand through his hair. I knew this would happen. She's been calling me too. I stared at him, feeling a mix of betrayal and hurt. And you didn't tell me. I didn't want to upset you, he said, stepping closer. I know how much she's hurt us, but she's still Emily's grandmother. David, she's the reason you left us, I said, my voice rising. She planted those clothes to make you think I was cheating. She manipulated you, and she's trying to do it again. David looked pained. I know, Sarah, and I'm not defending her. But people can change. Maybe she's trying to make amends. Or maybe she's just trying to control us again, I shot back. I can't let her hurt Emily the way she hurt us. David took my hands in his eyes pleading. Sarah, I'm not saying we should let her back into our lives without caution. But maybe we can give her a chance. For Emily's sake. I pulled away, tears stinging my eyes. Emily doesn't need Margaret in her life. She needs us. A stable, loving family. David nodded, his expression serious. You're right. I'm sorry. I just thought. I don't know what I thought. I wiped away my tears, trying to calm down. We need to focus on what's best for Emily. That's all that matters. David hugged me tightly. I promise, Sarah. We'll figure this out together. That night, as I tucked Emily into bed, she looked up at me with her big blue eyes. Mom, can I ask you something? Of course, sweetheart, I said, sitting on the edge of her bed. Why don't I see Grandma Margaret? She asked, her voice innocent. I took a deep breath, choosing my words carefully. Sometimes, grown-ups make mistakes, Emily. Your Grandma Margaret made some big mistakes that hurt our family. Right now, it's best if we don't see her. Emily nodded slowly. Okay, Mom. I trust you. I kissed her forehead, my heart aching. I love you, Emily. Always remember that. I love you too, Mom, she said, snuggling under her covers. As I closed her bedroom door, I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. Balancing the past and the future was a delicate act, but for Emily's sake, I had to try. We had to try. Together, we would navigate this storm and come out stronger on the other side. The months that followed were a time of healing and rebuilding. David continued to prove his commitment to our family, and Emily blossomed with both of us by her side. Despite the lingering shadow of Margaret, we focused on creating new, happy memories. One sunny Saturday morning, David and I decided to take Emily to the park for a picnic. The sky was a perfect shade of blue, and the air was filled with the scent of blooming flowers. Emily ran ahead, her laughter echoing through the park. Wait up, Emily, David called, grinning as he jogged to catch up with her. I watched them, my heart swelling with love. This was the life I had always wanted for us, a simple, happy family enjoying the little moments. We found a nice spot under a large oak tree and spread out our picnic blanket. Emily immediately began unpacking the food, her eyes shining with excitement. Look, Mom, I brought my favorite peanut butter and jelly sandwich, she exclaimed, holding it up proudly. I smiled, feeling a warmth in my chest. That's great, sweetie. I packed some lemonade too. As we sat and enjoyed our picnic, Emily chatted away about school, her friends, and all the things she wanted to do during the summer. David and I listened, sharing smiles and laughter. After lunch, we laid back on the blanket, watching the clouds drift by. Emily nestled between us, her head resting on David's shoulder. Daddy, she said softly, do you think we can go on a family vacation someday? David smiled, looking down at her. Of course, Emily. Where would you like to go? Emily thought for a moment, her eyes sparkling with excitement. I want to go to the beach. I've never seen the ocean. I chuckled. The beach sounds perfect. We can build sandcastles and collect seashells. Emily beamed. Can we, Mom? Can we really go? I nodded, my heart full. Yes, sweetheart. We'll plan a trip to the beach. It'll be our first family vacation. Emily hugged us both tightly. Thank you, Mom and Dad. I love you so much. We love you too, Emily, David said, kissing the top of her head. More than anything. As the day turned to evening, we packed up our picnic and headed home. Emily fell asleep in the back seat, her head resting against the window, a content smile on her face. When we got home, David carried Emily to her room and tucked her into bed. I stood in the doorway, watching them, feeling a sense of peace wash over me. David came over and took my hand. We're doing it, Sarah. We're building the life we always wanted. I nodded, tears of happiness filling my eyes. Yes, we are, and it feels wonderful. He kissed my forehead, his touch warm and reassuring. I promise, no matter what, I'll always be here for you and Emily. We're a team now. We're a family. As I looked into his eyes, I knew he meant every word. We had faced so many challenges, but we had come out stronger on the other side. The future was bright, and together, we would embrace it. We walked back to the living room, hand in hand, ready to face whatever came next. Our past was filled with pain and heartache, but our future was filled with hope and love. And as long as we had each other, I knew we could handle anything. That night, as I lay in bed, I felt a sense of contentment I hadn't felt in years. We were a family, united and strong. And no matter what challenges lay ahead, we would face them together. Because together, we were unstoppable.